closer to us. She's...
Um, Hello, everybody, and welcome. We've got an exciting show for you today. My name is Danny, and I'm the host for the show. So let's start with the song from the Minstrels.
Everybody can be happy. We can make each other happy. Look for someone to make happy. Then you will be happy too. Together we can all be happy with a little love. Everybody can be happy with a little love. Together we can all be happy with a little love. Everybody can be happy with a little love.
Here we go.
Social distancing variety hour. Oh, everybody can be happy.
Well, unless like me, you're a Buffalo Bills fan. In which
Yes.
case,
Pour one out.
just had a few heart attacks and
Oh, I had a few heart attacks, and I'm not even that emotionally invested in the Bills. But
that song kind of put everybody in a happy mood.
yeah,
I think.
I thought you needed that tonight.
I did need that. I appreciate that happy song.
Yeah.
Because oh man, wow.
Yeah, I have not been watching a lot of football these last few years, but I watched
It was quite a stressful last
watched
2 minutes of the game.
I watched nearly every minute of the Bills game today. I missed maybe the first half of the first quarter, but I watched all of the rest of it, and it was like, coming into halftime, I was like, this looked like a good one.
It was an incredibly exciting game.
And yeah, it was so nip and tuck the whole way.
And as the game went on, it got gradually more and more and more intense and more like high paced and more like, oh
Yeah.
my God. And there was like an acceleration at the end. Like everything just like accelerated, and there was like 30 points scored in the last 2 minutes of the game. And it was like, oh my God, will they score again? Oh my God, they scored again. Now we have to score again. Oh my God, we scored again. Oh my God, oh my God, they scored. Oh my God, now we scored. Oh my God, they tied it up. Oh,
Yeah,
I thought we
it
had
was,
it won. How did they tie it up? Oh my God.
It was such a whirlwind. Well, and I can't remember the name of Kansas City's kicker, but he missed that kick from a similar distance going into halftime. Butker,
Yep.
that's it. But he missed that kick going into halftime,
Yeah.
and so even though he's normally pretty lights out, it puts the possibility in your head that and he missed an extra point.
Yep.
Anything is missable, anything is makeable, anything can happen.
Yep. It was it was oh man. Just when and right when you thought it was over, then there was another twist at the end. So anyway.
Yeah,
I've had,
even
3
Ren got
heart
into
attacks.
it, and she is not a sport ball person by any stretch, but she got sucked into it and was watching it with me, and we
I am emotionally drained for this episode of Socially Distanced Variety Hour.
Yeah, we're physically compromised, we're emotionally compromised.
On
But-
so many levels.
But I missed you, my friend, so I was looking forward
Yes.
to talking to you tonight. So we
missed you too,
thought
my brother.
we'd at least get on and have a little chat. Our guest tonight was supposed to be our friend Joe Kodba, friend of the program, and he messaged me this morning that he woke up and was feeling like hot garbage. So he was going to try and tough it out, but as the day went on, he was not feeling up to that. So
That's all right. Get well, brother. Get well.
yeah, most definitely, and we'll look forward to getting him back here real soon. But we thought we would at least get together and chat for a little bit, and the lines are open. So if any of you out there,
Hey everybody.
Hey, everybody.
The fourth caller.
So
And
if
you'll
any
win
of you,
social
if any of you
distancing
watching out
variety
there,
hour.
Jay, I see you're there in the comments. Jay, always happy to have you. So Jay, you already know how to get to us if you want. Oh, hang on.
Oh well. So yeah, how's snowpocalypse treating you?
Um, well, the snow itself was what it was.
Yeah,
But the
we were prepared.
the 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 bigger thing and the more unfortunate thing was that we held out as long as we could. We made it this far, but we finally did in our house get brought down by COVID here a week
Yes,
before last.
likewise.
Yeah. So yeah,
Kids at school.
and that's
Go figure.
there's so many places that it could have come from, but it's like at
Well,
this point,
yes.
it's like there's no point
The only
even
place,
trying.
it's the only place mine were, so it wasn't like there was
There's
someplace
no
else,
point
but-
even trying to reverse engineer things. It's like you encounter people in public, and God only knows where
Yes.
they've been, and you're going to work, I'm going to work.
Yep.
Other people are doing activities and things, and yeah, Ren got sick first, and at first it's like, well, maybe this is a flu, maybe this is something.
Yep.
And yeah, and at first she actually tested as she was getting sick, like, let me take a COVID test, because we were prepared for
Yep.
such eventualities. And the first test she took as she was getting sick came back negative.
Yep.
So we were like, okay, this must be something different.
Let's ride it
Must be a
out.
different
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
But then she continued to feel worse. It was probably just too early for the test, because
Exactly.
if you get it early in the process, you'll get those.
You
You'll
are
get those
supposed to, I
negatives.
believe, you are supposed to wait until after you have been symptomatic for a small period of time before
Yeah.
you test. If you try to test at the beginning, then yeah.
Yeah. So we
So-
kind of we had a couple days there where it's like, well, this certainly seems like it could be, but test says it's not. So
Yep.
I don't know what to do with that. And then
Yeah.
it was about 2 days later I started getting sick, and by then she took another test and was like, "Yep, this is what we were worried that this might be." So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had the boy and my two youngest
yeah,
weren't feeling too hot, and went out and got some tests. That was an interesting adventure,
yeah,
trying to find tests, because you'd hear about, oh, they have tests at the one CVS, and you'd go there and they'd be like, yeah, we're all sold out. We sold out earlier. And then you'd find out, oh, they have one up at 38th and Sterotania. We can go there. So we kind of flew up to 38th and Sterotania, grabbed ourselves some test kits, and sure enough, the two youngest tested positive, but nobody else did. I mean,
Well,
knock
and
on wood.
lucky
for
for
vaccinations.
you that
Yeah.
you guys, the grown-ups of the house, managed to somehow escape it. We were not so lucky here at the
Yeah.
grown-ups of our house. Jay Brenneman,
Hey, Jay.
hey my friend, you're muted.
Hey, yeah, I know.
There you are.
There we
Okay.
go.
You guys were having a good conversation.
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to-
Well,
yeah.
you're welcome to be a part of
Y'all
it.
just let anybody in here, don't you?
Yeah.
You rabble off the streets.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's
Come
always
on in, Jay.
it's always
nice
good
and
to
warm
see your
inside
face.
the
Myself
social
comfy.
distancing variety hour.
Well, I'm hoping the viewers at home are as comfy as I am right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um.
But yeah.
Got a nice beer. It's Sunday. Looking, got classes. Semester just started. Got classes all week. Both. I'm only in one, but I'm teaching. I don't know, 3 or 4. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's a nice
Probably.
load. That's a healthy load.
It's quite a bit.
So
yeah.
we
Not as
had
bad as
not
last semester.
we had not talked to you since
Before
the
election?
election. I think it was
Mhm.
like election Eve that we last talked. I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which obviously worked out fine for you. Worked out less fine for some friends of ours and people that we were hoping to see do well.
I would trade it. I would trade that. No, I wouldn't. I mean, not that it shouldn't be traded. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be traded, but
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would take a I would take let's say an Aaron Lundberg on school board to have Dr. Titus doing the thing that Dr. Titus is not, unfortunately, getting to do.
Trade a future first-round draft pick. Could we do that?
And a player to be named
Like
later.
a
A school board
player to be
seat.
named later.
A school board seat to be named later.
And
And a county planning director for a county executive.
How about
You
that?
know, if we
Shit.
could just segue just for a quick second on that.
Yeah. I'm just here
I
to set him up.
expected him in the administration, but I didn't expect him in that office. it's just funny. It's funny that Davis himself was like, he's not qualified for it. So who does that?
Then he goes out and,
it's a real interesting look.
But he did find someone to, destroy the programs he wants destroyed, planning out their destruction. He found the right guy for the job he wants done.
That's true.
And we'll see reap the whirlwind of government by troll. And that's kind of what we're in for this next term here. Pretty much is governing via trolling.
Yeah, I mean,
and I want to say this. I hope any woman who works in or near that administration is cautious and careful. Make sure that your boss there doesn't have your cell phone, although he'll probably figure it out anyways. Make sure you're in a room with other people and stuff like that. I just want to, if anybody hears that,
always good
advice.
Anybody
who might be in that position to advise them to do the same thing.
Always good advice.
So do you have
on that guy?
Do you want to elaborate on that at all, or do we just want to leave that?
I think anybody any bartender,
vague good
any
advice.
person any woman who's been at a work site that he's been contracted to, I think I think there's enough women that have experienced it, that understand and would know.
Yeah.
And just use caution.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
indeed.
Which is an unfortunate thing that we're in the position of having to say about the people running our county.
Yeah.
Awareness is key, though. Awareness is key.
So you're a couple weeks in the trenches of the new Erie School Board. How's
a month? 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Because it's weird because the school boards they take office.
Oh yeah, you guys
December,
started early.
Yeah, they always go in December, which is a little weird, but maybe.
Yeah. So how's that been so far? How's what's the lay of the land? What's new and exciting?
Eye-opening. I mean, in many ways, I believe the transition, at least for me, probably wasn't as hard. I mean, was just because I had been on county council for 4 years.
Sure.
I had been through and led many major things, including the community college, the county pay plan, which the Davis is trying to sidestep, library renovations, the radio, any number of things, right? And so I'm used to like those contentious things. I'm used to, having people say crazy stuff, and that one there's 7 members. This one there's 9. So it's a little different mechanics. The staff support has been just phenomenal. I mean, they've just been wonderful of just answering my questions, make sure I have everything I need when getting started. Because there's a lot of like procedural things, and a lot of it's similar to any other, even being on a board of a nonprofit. A lot of it's the same, but there's a lot. And one thing I got to say, and I've always admired this about school boards, and it's a state requirement. But, I went through optional training when I was on county council, but, they have mandatory training for all school board members. And I think that would just be something that every elected office should have. Like you should know, you should at least have the exposure to certain things. And one of the things I loved about both of the trainings, I went through both basic school director training and advanced school director training, which I wasn't required to do right away, but both sessions they covered trauma at length.
Yeah.
And I know not everybody there's some school board members in the training that was like, oh, this is too close to CRT, critical race theory and stuff.
Oh, my Lord.
Sake.
I was like, I
Lord.
teach both trauma and critical race theory, so I was like,
so bring it on.
Good to
Give
me.
me more of that.
Yeah. But that was good. It was good that they have that. And so, yeah, I'm warming in just fine, I think.
Well,
Well,
that's nice.
you guys obviously, lost a lot of institutional knowledge with Tyler moving on and with Angela McNair moving on, and there's a third one, I think. How
Spiegel? No, screw that guy.
is he the third? Is he the third one? Never mind.
Anti.
I was thinking
racist
of
bigot, dude.
I was thinking of Winarski, but he was on
That's county
city
council.
council and now
Yeah.
county council, right? Spiegel, yeah, screw that guy. Hi Tom, love you Tom. Don't really love you Tom. But how without calling people out, unless you want to call people out, in which case feel free. What's your impression of your fellow class of rookies on the school board?
I think the rookies are great. I think they're phenomenal. I'm really impressed by them. I'm really impressed by their earnest discussions and dialogue. I'm really impressed by their desire to do more than just talk. I admire their desire to how they appreciate research. They appreciate data and information. They appreciate community engagement and any number of things, and they have a very proactive a holistic approach to their role. And so I think we have a great class of I think I'm really impressed by our newcomers, and I'm hoping to see more newcomers in the next election here, and was a year and a half from now. So I hope
it's nice to see some new blood.
Yeah, there's gonna be 5 seats
on the board,
and I'm telling you, we need at least 2. We need at least 2. One of them needs to go. This person who's an anti-masker and a bigot, and like sitting right next to me and just saying like some bigoted things. I'm just real happy about it, and I'm just like, she's really gross as a person, and I'm not. It's not just that. Like, it isn't like we all have like individual. I'm sure she would never vote for anything that I support, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, and that doesn't bother, because but what gets me is like, I worry, because she was an administrator for a long time. I worry about all the harm she's caused. I don't know how many students and teachers and stuff during her tenure as an administrator, and I worry about all the harm she has caused on school board. She loves expulsion. She loves all that other stuff. I really worry about the harm she's caused. And I'm just telling you, there's 1 seat for sure, but definitely 2 that some new
need to be flipped in a fresh direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So if people were thinking about running, just, oh my gosh, please do it, please.
Yes, the new breed or the new blood so far on the board is encouraging. But there's 9, like you said, there's 9 seats, and what is it, 4 of them? I mean, yourself and 3 others.
We just did 4.
Right?
Yeah, there's 4 of us came on, and there's
5 up next term.
Soon, yeah.
Well, and it's cool, unlike some other elected bodies that you can literally flip the entire thing in a 2-year span. It obviously takes a combination of factors to make that happen, but this year the class coming in, it was literally nobody running for re-election. It's all some not.
See more of that.
Yeah,
I want to see more of that.
Yeah,
not just for the sake of, because there are some that'll probably be up for their second. There's like 1 or 2 that'll be up for their second, for their first re-election, really.
Yeah.
And I think 1 or 2 of them, I think, would be, they wouldn't be bad. They'd be good. I think they'd be good.
Yeah.
I think they would be real good. So, but because new isn't always better, right? But
no, certainly not.
I think we definitely need at least 2 new, like, just in general, just not just new, but people that are willing to work.
Mm-hmm.
But just overall, we just need people on the board who are willing to work, where we're not sitting around year after year talking about the same stuff.
Yeah.
people aren't getting cold feet because you have bigots coming to the meeting talking about how we're all involved in a global cabal to sell children as sex slaves. Although again,
Yeah.
not new for me to encounter, but
Right,
just
but
to see that, like,
you're seeing them in a different room than you've seen them in
interesting
before.
they're-
intersectionality of anti-maskers, would be,
It's
What about the chemtrails people? Do you get the chemtrails people?
it's wasting valuable
And,
time that should be spent trying to solve issues and remedy situations. And
well, here's like my thing, like, and this is with every elected office, right? So I encountered this when I was in county council too, right? So you bring something up and it gets other people upset because there's people that are in elected office that don't want to do anything. Just in general.
they don't
Sure.
want to have
They just
and they
want to
don't wanna
fart
have
in the
their
chair
name
for 3
attached
hours.
to.
Like, there's people that just want to do that. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
They just want to sit and fart in the chair for 3 hours. There's a lot of people, understandably, they don't understand necessarily how like process works, right? So you got 9 members. Anybody can submit. You guys are lagging here in mine, but anybody can submit things to the committees, to the board. I think I was the only one, 9, that submitted anything. And
You mean
and I've submitted
submitting
school-
as far as like new business?
just work, just things to review.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because the administration, there's a normal with any elected body. There's just the things that come down from the administration, that you're working through, and there's things that you as a school board leader can take leadership on,
Right.
and there's things that the committees can bring forward and stuff. Yeah, it was just me. I hope that's not the pattern,
Right.
but
Well, you're not shy.
we have time to address this stuff, and I understand like what makes the news. Like, there's one thing that we passed that I put forward a month ago that we just passed. I was really proud of because it's usually kind of hard at a lot of school boards to pass, and we did it, but it didn't make the news because everybody's like, and granted they were all focusing on a very important thing, but still.
Sure. So what was the thing that we all missed?
So nationwide, for the past couple years, there's been this effort for schools to include safe firearm storage education to students and their families.
Okay.
Because that's where the majority of firearms come from, unsecured firearms in
right.
the homes, and leads to suicides and
And guns
kids-
in
Domestic
schools.
violence
Yeah.
episodes.
exactly,
and-
yeah. And that went. It was fairly simple.
Well, it seems like, and I'm not trying to diminish it by any means, but it seems like an easy sell. Like it seems like there's not a whole lot of factions that would put themselves out there as saying that that's a bad idea.
Yeah, yes, I would think
I
so.
mean, but but in
Some
the
of my
horse,
colleagues
but in the
think
horse
they just
dewormer
don't
drinking
want it.
society
have
we
some
live in.
kooks that have some kooky ideas about, all sorts of crazy, nonsensical, freak show nonsense.
Well, and I don't get because I fundamentally don't get libertarians, but I get the libertarian urge of, big school board government shouldn't be in my home telling me what I should do with my freedoms.
Yeah.
So, I can conceive of the objection, but it's such a bullshit objection. Like it seems like, and I'm talking myself in circles. I was going to say it seems like an easy sell to reasonable people, but most things that sound like good ideas
They're not reasonable.
to the likes of the three of us also seem like easy sells to reasonable
my
people.
worry is when you have elected officials that make decisions based on people and the amount of people that complain, right? And
Yeah.
so the people that show up aren't, sometimes you get some really great community advocates that come and stand up for things, but not every person who comes up and says something like the global cabal person Not everybody that comes there you should be listening to.
Right.
Like, and there's people I will tell you, if you're coming to me and telling me there's a global cabal that we're all participating in selling children and hiding illegal immigrants and, making them wear masks so that they can be sold as sex slaves or something like that, I'm going to tell you to your face, I'm not going to listen to anything that you have to offer in opinion on any issue. And so, but there's people in elected office, in any office, that if they have, somebody from high school, or they got like 5 people that, show up at the board, and they take their word for it as if they count for, 5,000-10,000 people when they only maybe count for a few dozen, and they're not thinking about the most vulnerable or the people we're supposed to be thinking about. No. And it's like
the squeakiest
we have
wheels
to make a decision.
The squeakiest wheels aren't necessarily representative of
not always
of your constituents.
Yeah, and that's by design to, bog down the process with nonsense so that, normal business and regular business and things that used to be, regular business of the day. Here are the things that need to be done and required to function as a district.
Yeah.
Or a county or what have you. And it's all occupied by listening to kook burgers rattle off, some weird internet claptrap, and there's real business that needs done, and nobody's interested in that. They're interested in freaking nonsense and making threats. And,
I think that should be on our next shirt. It should just say kook burger on it.
Kook burger. Yeah, I just made that word up. I don't know.
I appreciate it. I'm putting it on.
I pulled that right out of thin air. I was like, oh, what's that up here? Oh, kook burger.
Kook burger.
So
it works.
But it does. It kind of it's by design. I mean, they've gotten the marching orders to go take over. School boards.
Yeah.
Resist at the school boards and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not completely confident that every school board member is just like with any local elected office. I'm not convinced that all of them are wanting, desiring, or would lead on a subject that it might seem scandalous nationwide in very conservative areas for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not completely confident that every elected official in our region, and even the most democratic, diverse, communities, I'm not convinced that all those leaders are willing to do the right thing, even though it's like they would face no repercussions from it, and it would actually have benefits to the very people we're supposed to serve.
Thank you.
So
maybe
that comes with practice. I don't know.
So, this is not your first rodeo, and one of the things.
Literally, I grew up in Montana. I used to go to rodeos. But yeah.
And one of the things that we professionally love about you is you're sort of professionally all out of fucks to give. So.
Every day it's a little, yeah. I'm below zero.
right. You're
Negative.
running at a fuck deficit right now. So there's, and I mean this in a good way. So please take it in a good way. Like you're not conducting yourself on school board with an eye towards, well, I better not ruffle any feathers while I'm on school board because that'll hurt my chances of whatever. You've had all those other chances essentially.
I was doodling. I don't know what they all said, but I listened to like 40 minutes of people. Some of them, some of them there's earnest, and I did listen, right? Because you can't escape hearing the noises, right? But when some people start saying some bigoted things or anti-intellectual things like Spiegel or some really stupid
dismissed
things,
out of hand.
Yeah,
I just zone out. I'm zone out, like not here, yo. Yeah, but so like that doesn't bother me at all in the least. But here's the thing, and this isn't. It's like honestly, listen, taking hours out of our day to be there to do some very important things. Like if you've ever been in any of the schools, heard from any of the students, the administrators, the teachers, oh my gosh, like if anybody has seen or heard what is happening, not just locally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what's happening locally is happening nationally, but it is really bad locally.
Yeah.
And everything that's going on, it's
It's
like
hard. It's
I
hard
could
this year,
I
Jay. I
could
will
give
tell you.
I give zero shits about these other people because they're causing harm or want to stop positive things from happening.
Yes.
My it literally sickens me to my stomach to think about some of the things that our teachers and students are going through. And it further depresses me when, if I encounter a colleague who's not as willing to do something. And so I'm not going to slow down or pull back just because they're uncomfortable. It's like, I'm doing what I'm comfortable with. I will. And it isn't like if we pick up one issue that we can't do other issues. Literally, I was one of 9 members that brought things to the agenda. It's
Yeah.
like we all literally can do this. Like we all can work on these things.
Yeah, you
And
walk and chew
so-
gum at the same time. It's not like,
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
gosh, there's this one thing, so we have to table everything else because we can't
That
possibly.
that excuse falls flat when nobody else presents anything. Like
Yeah.
it isn't like I present something and somebody else's stuff we don't get to because we're too busy doing it. Like if nobody else literally has anything else, like how are we not working on these things?
Yeah.
And we can do all of those things. Like we literally can. And I submitted two resolutions, 3 policies that have yet to go to the policy process, the review process, the committee process. I submitted a mascot policy, which the school district doesn't have. I submitted. So
I want to talk
so
more about
the
that,
one
but go on.
resolution was specifically retire this native mascot, right?
Yes.
And then I amended it to where it would also add, let's do a year and a half, technically it would be 2.5 year process to review all building and facility names, right? So that's like a thing, right? Which people have been saying they want to do, but let's
Yes.
prove it, right? Let's get it on the
Yes.
calendar. So, that's a resolution, right? Where it just like immediately tells the administration, end of school year, retire this racist mascot. But I created a policy on it that's on the books that guides future mascot development that says it can't be racist, right?
Yeah.
You can't do these things, right?
Yes.
And then another policy on facility names and even street and roadway names. As a matter of fact, we have some streets that they were talking about at the last committee meeting about naming. And I'm like, awesome. I have let's not name it after people who are alive if we can. Let's not name it after dirt bags, like our administrative building is named after. And, let's have a process for that. And then the third policy that I submitted is a rather lengthy one. It's an anti-racism policy. It's the first policy that even mentions racism. We have no policies on the books that mention racism. Our strategic plan does not mention racism. It says a few things about diversity. It says we have nothing on policy or anything that specifically says anything about racism. So, I submitted those. Those will go through. Those took me. Mascot one took me the past policy took me a few hours to develop. The facility one, several more hours. And then the anti-racism one off and on for like a week or two working on that. Board rules, which, changing that was like the very first thing I did was changing the board rules just so that the language used was more gender expansive. No big deal. Although we had one or two bigots that voted no on that. So it's like, those are like, that's my slow pace. And I told him, I was like, this is my slow pace. And so
I'm easing y'all into it.
Yeah. That's my slow pace. Cause I'm like, I don't know what other people have to bring. And I'm excited to see and hear what other school board members have to bring. Cause I want to help see these other ideas. Cause I'm not really into sports. I'm not really into, a couple of the other things where the other board members are really keen on. It's great that they have their niches, and I'm like, I want to see that stuff. I want to support you on that. So
excellent.
So going back to the mascot thing, because I wanted to talk about the mascot thing, and thank you for bringing it up. What's the overall reaction to that initiative been, both within the board and whatever sense you've got for how it's being received in the community, the alumni community, the just general community at large?
Pretty quiet, I think, actually, comparatively. I mean,
Yeah.
even on social media, doesn't seem to be a lot of people involved in it. My inbox and my email, I've received maybe 5 people who have just been like, and they haven't even been bad. Like these were people that were like, we're proud of this. We don't think it's wrong.
Right.
1 or 2 people were like, some of the stuff we did in the past was a little cringy,
Well,
And
yeah,
so like
that's true.
I send them all the research. I send them the 1,500 Native organizations that's been imposed, the story of how it's been a fight by Indigenous people for 50 years, how area tribes in our region are saying get rid of it.
Yeah,
all
I
this
was just
other
about to
stuff,
say.
on and on and on. Like I literally like, here's all of it, right?
Well, and I saw a thing that you just posted today. It was a Times News story from 1993.
And I want to talk about that.
Yeah,
That came
please do.
because one of those students that protest that raised the issue about the mascot, one of those people with indigenous heritage reached out to me because of it and told me even more stuff that really upset me. And so and it's like, even when, because back in 92 there was this large anti-mask, native mascot abolition really started about 50 years ago, but in 1992 it really kicked off. That's when the NAACP, that's when all these national, they all started staying, and that's when this happened.
And
here too.
And to me at least, part of the what caused, maybe not caused, but brought that to the front was around the time that the Atlanta Braves were really starting to have a big national profile, and were really the tomahawk thing and all of that was newly on the national stage in a way that was getting noticed by a lot of people, where when it was a thing that they were just doing in the the quote unquote privacy of their own homes, privacy of their own stadiums, wasn't really getting the negative national attention that it started to once they started making playoffs and started being in World Series and things like that. So but it's 30 years later. But it's 30 years later, and I just finished watching a game in Kansas City where you still got Chiefs fans doing the same thing, and it's like,
and they even said you can't do, please don't do it, and they're still doing it.
Right.
Yeah. But let me tell you, I want people to know this isn't like a woke leftist white dude thing. Like the reason why we're talking about it now, same reason why we were talking about it in 1992, is because Native leaders have been standing up and have been pushing for it, and they're doing it now. Like there was a big, thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, particularly after the murder of George Floyd, this came back in a very big way, and so these are indigenous people from across the country that are pushing for it, and this is they're saying, look, we're facing the highest rate of teen suicide, the highest rate of police shootings, the highest rate of women raped and
missing,
kidnapped and killed and not knowing what happened to them. We're invisible in our own society, in our own land, right? And it's like we're also treated as if we're just like some one hodgepodge, one mishmash hodgepodge of a culture, even though we're over 1,000 cultures that's really diverse. And we're treated as if this one person from Cleveland, I really appreciate her quote, we're treated as if we're feathered and leathered from the 1800s.
Right.
And it's like we're people living here and now. We have a present story and a future story. And it's like, what gets me is when people say, the same people that put the blackout image on their Facebook profile page, same people that put the yard signs that say, in this house we believe, people that go and complain about immigration policies and stuff, they're like, this isn't a big deal, why is this a big deal? And it's like, don't we have other racist things to deal with? It's like, A, they're all, but B, this is like, why is this not important? Is it because it's a minority group that you don't encounter that often? That it's such a small, invisible group that they're invisible to you?
It doesn't impact them. in any discernible way. So therefore, it must not be a big deal in general. And it's that, and it's an excuse that's used like, well, then why should we do anything? Why should we do that? It's such a, what's the big deal? And it becomes an excuse and a backstop to inaction and shoulder shrugging and, oh well, it's just those crazy woke leftists trying to,
Going too far. What will you do next? Take the eerie name away? Like, nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
Literally nobody is saying that. If anything, native groups have said, look, we understand that these regions are named after people and our peoples and stuff. There's been an approach, like the former Congresswoman, begins with her name, I think last name begins with A, her name escapes me, but she just became the first Native person appointed to the Bureau of, or the Department of the Interior, the Secretary of the Interior, right? And so she just released a policy that said we have to get rid of all derogatory Native names throughout federally owned lands, such as SQUAW and some other ones, like things that are really epithets, right? A lot of things that, even with the scalping, even with like a lot of these things that we attribute to natives, right? Those aren't their images. Those are the white colonizers' images and words that we put on them and we attach to them and we don't let go. For instance, there's no indigenous peoples from this region that wears the Plain Indians war bonnet. That's like stolen valor. That is, there's a handful of tribes in the Plains area that wear those. There's very few people alive to this day who have earned them. You earn one feather at a time.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not like. It's not like it's a decoration or a fashion style. It's it's something that's earned. It's something that's.
It goes back to like when you shoot a bear. Right, you go hunting and you shoot a bear or a mountain lion, you hang it up on your wall. You want to say that it fought back, that it was noble, right? That it was tough, right? And that's what these mascots are. It's like we celebrate, even though we committed genocide, but many of them are still alive. It's like we treat them as if they're like we're honoring one of the leaders from the Seneca Nation nearby. They're saying like, listen. During this time, the U.S. and Canada had a policy of ripping children from their, native children from their loved ones, throwing them in places where they were stripped of their language, their culture, their name, teased and harassed all throughout. That same era when this mascot was adopted in 1920, 1921, that same time frame, all throughout is when we were denying indigenous people the right to vote, denying the right to life, to their name, to their religion, to their ceremonies, to their land, and still to this day. And if we want to honor them, we will give them visibility in the here and now. We will honor instead of treating them as one culture, we'll honor the diversity within the culture. A Penn State study said that that the vast majority of what we teach in schools is pre-1900 context of Native people, which is terrible. And, we treat them as if they're gone, as if they're a figment of the past. And then this is an image from Wild Bill's Western shows. He used to hire people and go around the country and, cowboys and Indians and all this other stuff, right? That's what
the Buffalo Bills are named after. That's who the Buffalo Bills are named after.
Is that? Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yep,
I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, and I just screen shared this.
I'm just saying,
They're playing today, aren't they? How they do it? Not so hot.
It did not turn out well.
It was heartbreaking. I just screen shared this. At the same time that you're doing what you're doing.
A great artist, by the way, and phenomenal person.
Yeah, and Evan's a great friend, great pal. And none of this is intended as a criticism of his work or him taking the work, but
I'm sure he poured his heart and soul into it.
I'm
this
sure.
has got to be painful.
But you got the school, and it's in memory of members of some family class of 1940, 1945, 1951, but you got them unveiling and I know Evan well enough to know that this was a very expensive piece of art, um,
I bet.
dedicated to this mascot um, that you guys are, you as a school board and you as a member of the school board are in the process of trying to
Unwinding.
be a thing of the past. So
I say
that's-
take it to the Lakota peoples who it more accurately represents, and try to give it to them as a gift if they'll take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Offer it if it's meant in honor.
Yeah.
If it's meant in honor, go ask the Seneca people.
Ask them, ask them if this is something that would be
ask if they
received
want
as
it.
honorable or considered insulting.
If it is something honorable,
Yeah.
and it's meant to honor them, tell me who it's meant to honor first. Who
Sure.
does that honor?
Yeah.
Answer that first. It doesn't honor the Erie's people.
No.
Right.
And they're not, who are you going to take it to? So, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, a lot of effort, work. I'm sure it's, it looks like he put a lot of amazing stuff in. And it's got to be super painful, right? To have created something that is a racist caricature. It's got to be painful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go donate that to, you'll find the same things at the Jim Crow Museum of Racist Memorabilia. Like you'll find those same images.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I assume, this is a piece that's hanging in the school. I mean, is this?
It is. Yeah.
It is.
I gave
Is
an
this-
interview with it in the back.
Is this property of the school district now?
I honestly don't know. And honestly, if the school district wants to gift it back to the artist, I don't think we should display it.
Yeah.
On school property. It's harmful. Research shows that, and we're asked by a consensus of Native people to not do these things. And so, I think that if anything, it should be gifted to whomever. If they really want to honor Native
Or
people,
it's
try to
the
gift it to a
plaque
Native
the
organization.
plaque that we saw in the post was that it was given in honor
A memorial
of the
for-
such and such members of the whatever family.
give it to the family then.
Mhm.
Let them put it on their wall somewhere.
Yeah.
We're an institution of learning. Thousands of children. We have to be mindful of their mental well-being. We have to be mindful of how they're treated by their peers. We have to be mindful of the education and the truth and history that we're teaching about people. We have to be mindful of not only the impact this has on indigenous children, but also on every single person who walks through those doors. As research shows, every single person, you're more likely to have prejudicial biases and beliefs towards Native people when you see and are constantly surrounded by those images. And so, if the school district, there's no proper way of displaying that. There's no proper way of displaying the tomahawks. There's no proper way of displaying the headbands. None of that. Okay. It's just a matter of if you want to gift it back to the family, whatever, fine, whoever paid for it, that group, go ahead. If you want to reach out to, again, I don't know who you would choose. Take your pick. Indigenous groups, reach out to them, ask if they would take it in their honor.
Yeah. And if
honestly,
not,
I
then-
would put a
if not,
shroud
then-
over every single stereotypical racist depiction in that building. And they're all over. There's one that's staring right at us the whole school board meeting. And by the way, that image was downloaded from Shutterstock.com by some dude in New Zealand who made it. I don't know what's going on with the little face paint thing here on the face, but I did a Google reverse image search. I was like, oh my gosh, they just downloaded this off the internet. And they even are acknowledging that it's harmful because they've gone through and have over years, they've removed some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, how do you take a racist depiction and make it not racist?
Well, you don't.
Magic.
And if it's like, well, let's make it more accurate. It's like, okay, you go through that process. Who are
Well,
you talking to
I
for
think
that?
there's very.
They're saying they
I think there's
won't
very
authorize any of
few.
them.
I think there's very few exceptions out there. I guess I think of the example of Florida State. where they've they've had a historic relationship with the Seminole community, and have worked with leaders of the tribe to do things and whatever. But like, that is not going on at East Middle School.
No.
Those schools make up less than 5% of all school mascot associated schools, but less than 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even amongst them, they're moving away from it. So,
well, and less than 5% today compared to, how many schools are there that?
How many Stanford Cardinals have made the switch and changed?
Exactly. Yeah.
And how many have not? How many Fighting Illini are
it's something
still?
like 1 in 25, 1 in 26 schools, and they're predominantly in areas where there is no federally recognized tribe, and they happen to be mostly in the Midwest and Northeast. Ohio, like the native groups there across Lake Erie, they've asked for every single school in Ohio. The various tribes within the state of New York have asked for every single school district to do the same. And, there's groups in Pennsylvania asking the same, and there's proposed legislation to do the same as well. So, but there's been schools in our region for years that have been doing away with these depictions, and they've done so quietly in conservative communities.
Yeah.
Without like much of anything. And so it's like, but it's like, listen, there's no value to keeping a racist depiction up on the walls of our school and on our social media, and going to an expulsion hearing and seeing administrators wearing this on their face masks and on their shirts and stuff, and it's like, we already have a disproportional the amount of children, the school to prison pipeline. And it's like, geez, not a good look, Yeah.
Or a good outcome.
But yeah, again, we can deal with this and a ton of other things at the same time. This isn't preventing us. And it's ludicrous to say that this isn't important, or that it's a niche thing that we should only be, or that we need to toss it in with other things and put that. It's like, no, we need to remove this. It's causing active harm.
Yeah. There's no need to have a study
depiction.
or.
Yeah. It's like, if there was a Confederate flag up there, would we be like, nah, let's start looking at other things first. Let's leave that up there. Some people might have opinion on what it meant to honor. It's like, no, we get rid of it right away. So
be done with it and move on.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Skindell, and I'm calling you Mr. Skindell because I'm calling on you in your professional capacity.
Yes. Well, all right then.
You're a Erie City public school teacher, as we well know.
Indeed, I am.
What would you like to see from your new school board?
Well, with this year has been very difficult in the sense that we have kids returning to the in-person learning environment that have been away for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And like, I teach 8th grade. So the last time, my students were in a classroom setting was back when they were in 6th grade. And now they're coming back, and it's like the wheels are all off. There's no, not that I'm advocating for a dress code, I was kind of glad to see, but there's no, like, got kids walking around with hoods on and no mask. And like, you try to say something like, hey, can we get our mask up and take our hood down and come on into class and stuff like that. And you get like, grief and, and it's getting more and more difficult. And kids, like I said, they haven't been in school. So you got kids that are just like, I'm out. And
they've all gone feral,
running the halls. And, I had a kid the other day, I'm in the middle of teaching my class, and all of a sudden my door swings open and kid screams, a bunch of swear words in my class, and then slams the door and runs down the hall. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm locking my door now, so that I don't have that happen. And it's like, while on one hand, you have the whole thing like Jay was just talking about, where you don't want to have a pipeline to prison, a classroom to prison pipeline. And on another hand, you have teachers being assaulted and threats being made to, I myself had a student make a threat very credible threat, of violence to me, and so it seems like it's becoming more and more dangerous just to be a teacher and do the normal things that used to be normal every day, just things that have kind of lost a little grip. And I don't know how we get that back beyond starting the new school year coming up, having some kind of plan in place for various means of discipline and consequences for somewhat simple things. It's not, I don't want to say simple things, but there's, like there's some crazy stuff going on. I got kids like vaping in class and blowing it in a teacher's face and, laughing in their face like, you can't do nothing to me, and then running down the hall. It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck, and you write it up and you spend time typing up a write-up, and then it's like nothing gets done. And it's like, on one hand, you don't want to be like, the over disciplinarian, and on the other hand, it's like kids are running the halls like it's a freak show, And so it's
well, I
hard
think we've all gone.
It's hard.
We've
It's
all
hard
gone
this
a little.
year, Jay.
We've all
I will
gone
be
a little
honest
bit
with you.
feral in the last 2 years, I think.
Fight, and then in class, what does everybody else see? And they see it.
Honey, I thank you, honey. I appreciate your support, my dear.
I couldn't hear it. I don't know what that was.
No, that's good. That's good. That's all right.
Okay, but yeah, I appreciate it, and not the first I've heard that. And honestly, when some of the things I've seen, some fights and some other things I've seen, and some of the issues that students and teachers are facing, it's a gut punch because it's two different things. One, we're all within a society where this is happening nationwide, right? And a large part of it has to do with the systems above us that are failing everybody, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like we can't use that as an excuse not to do anything. Like we
Exactly.
literally have a responsibility. And so, it's like our educational system was falling apart before the pandemic, and now it's it's going there even faster. And so, teachers are putting their lives on the line, not just regardless of the threats by students or whatever. It's also the fact that you're in a classroom with this virus that's very deadly, right?
Yes.
Harmful, long-term effects, etc. Even though I teach at the college level, having students that have to drop out of school or lose loved ones or have long-term health effects
I've lost colleagues over this past year. 4, I believe, 5 colleagues over the past year.
And then we still expect so much more from teachers, and we're not paying enough, and I'll say, I wasn't there, but the pay increases are not adequate enough. And then what we pay for, the resource, and really what was a gut punch was seeing that not only are teachers teaching with insurmountable odds that wasn't going in the right direction to begin with, but also not having and how long it's going to take to get the resources right. So like, even when it comes to violence interrupters and psychologists and, and social workers and other staffers and mental health and peer support groups and all sorts of things, right? The time it'll take to get that up and running, and the time it'll take which should have been done, right? But it's like, we're giving teachers no choice but to do these write-ups. We're giving teachers and students no choice but to clash with one another, right? We're giving there's no choice. Nobody has a choice in this matter, right? And and so what crushes me is when I hear like my colleagues getting all excited about where are we going to put like a parking lot or something, or what kind of windows are we going to put on a wall or something like that. I'm just thinking about like all these other things. It's like, my God, like,
rearranging
I don't,
the deck
honestly,
chairs.
and I'll say this, and it might scare the administration for me saying it. Honestly, I don't know how there hasn't been a teacher walkout. I don't know how there isn't. I know there are around the country, and I don't expect you to speak on that. No. But I don't know how. I know nationwide this is happening. I don't know how any school district well, I understand a few that have like all the resources in the world and stuff,
Yeah,
but
I was about to say
yeah, our
there's some that are like,
peers,
what? Another counselor?
yeah,
Okay.
our peers in like districts around the country. I don't know how there aren't more student and teacher walkouts. And our society we have major societal issues right now, and nowhere other than in healthcare, other than healthcare, where do we see it most is right here, where families and children, our future, and and teachers and everybody are there. And so um I think it's terrible and god awful, and I think we need a huge systems change, but also at the same time we need to get some resources in there immediately. And there are security issues,
Yeah.
and there's we have to we can't approach it from the old ways, right? We have to understand that we have to keep teachers safe, right? So if kids are, they should be removed from causing potential and real harm
Yeah.
to teachers and to other students. At the same time, it's like, if they just go out into the community, what have we done? We haven't done
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
It's
You just
still
pushed
gonna
it aside.
exactly.
not,
And there's
yeah.
and so
Well, and
and
if the solution is to send them home, then that's creating all sorts of downstream effects with families and parents trying to work and all of that stuff too.
And then what message does that send? What message does that send? What does it say to students, saying that we're incapable of, we tell you that you should, we tell students and teachers, we tell students that's like, we're supposed to mend relationships. You can do better. All these other things. And it's like, we're demonstrating that we won't. We're demonstrating
Right.
that
You're too much for us to deal with.
yeah. And it's like, and it's not on the teachers doing what they can. It's like,
Yeah.
who's providing these resources? And it's terrible. I am hopeful by what's happening in the LA school district. They've over the past couple of years, and it's really been in effect past year. They shifted a significant amount of their school police funding into a program that focuses on outcomes, specifically for their Black students. It focuses on therapists, mental health workers, violence interrupters, et cetera, in the schools, like, also peer groups that are and the results are clear. The academic standards are better. Mental health is better. Expulsions and other penalties are down. Violence in schools are down. And they even have rules like where the school police can't step on campus without permission. Right. And it's like, when things are happening, it's like our first response shouldn't be like, let's get police in here. Right. It's like, there's a role and a time for involving law enforcement. It's also, we have to put our money where our mouth is, and we have to get as many as much supports in there. We need to give teachers a break, and we need to give students a break, and we need to just, I don't know. And we need to let honestly, when it comes like academics and other things, we need to like focus on people surviving and living first. To be honest.
Man, I've never had a year like this hard in my 23 years of teaching. It's overwhelming, and it is, I will be honest with you, Jay, it is demoralizing. And I used to love my job, and I'm getting to a point where it's hard to go to work every day.
I hear that a lot.
And try to, and I've always been that teacher that's like the fun guy that does the fun projects and, does, cool, fun stuff. And it's harder and harder to do any of that at all. And I, part of me feels like I'm letting them down, but part of me feels like I'm just trying to hold it together. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to hold on and get through the day every day. And it is grinding an awful lot of teachers into dust. Myself, like I said, myself included. And I never, I'll be honest with you. I never thought there would come a day when I would, dread going to work every day because, or get there and be like, all right, well, I just got to get through this day, and just be in survival mode. I never thought I would, like I said, I've loved my job for 22 odd years. But this year it is
And that's what I'm talking about. You're not
my
unique in
mental
that.
health. You know, it
That
is
isn't
impacting
just
my
one.
mental
You're not
health.
one. You're one of like that is the norm.
Yeah,
Right.
that
is the norm, and
everyone is in the same
and
boat.
it's not it wasn't sustainable. I don't know how teachers are sustaining it now because it's not.
Yeah.
And that's where I go back to where it's like, honestly, as a society, things are not, I feel like we got to stop thinking the pandemic's going to be over like tomorrow or next year or something's
Right.
going to flip, right? Even if it did, like you were getting to, Garrett, like turning things around, getting, back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen. And we have to realize that.
This is all like structural stuff that has to be put in place so that in years in the future the dividends pay off.
Yeah, it's going to be a generational change and not a year or 2 year change.
I think we're going to screw up a generation. I think we have a generation being screwed up. I think we're harming them. And we're causing active harm right now.
And then there's the opposite end of the pendulum that's like, oh my gosh, they're losing out on their learning, so now we need to push twice as hard to try to get everybody caught back up to where they're supposed to be, wherever it's supposed to be.
Well, it's like they're only competing with each other, and literally the entire world is in this boat where everybody's shit is fucked up. So
it's like if we're running a race,
there are
no shoot the starting gun, and we're like, all right, we're ready, set, go, and everyone at the starting line stands there for 10 seconds, and then starts running.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, well, we're all still racing. It's not like
we're not setting any world records. We're not beating our personal best.
Went off and 3 kids took off, and the other ones all stood there at the starting line.
Yeah, there are no mythical children out there who are not being impacted by this. That there are
ones
no
that are handling it the best, even the ones that are coping with it the best, even the ones that have all the resources and help and support and all that stuff are still being impacted. And it's
like these mythical Joneses that we're trying to keep up with, like they don't exist.
Yeah,
I like what you said there, Garrett, too, about let's think about our flawed thinking of education to begin with. Okay. Where we treat Paulo Freire would calls it the banking concept, right? Where we treat children as if they're like this can of delicious Lavery beer, right? But let's say like we treat educate like our children as if they're like a can or a bottle. And then us, teachers are,
filling it up,
pouring knowledge into them, and it fills up. And if we're not pouring in, then they're not filling up, right?
Yeah.
But we don't realize that it's not like that. We're constantly learning and forgetting things as we go on, and it's one of those things where there's things that you can come up with later in life that it doesn't set you back. It isn't like, there are, and you're gonna go even deeper on it, but yeah, that's just my
and as a teacher, I mean, I teach 8th grade, so like I'm all in, like usually the last quarter of the year is kind of spent like, all right, we're preparing for high school, and we're looking at jobs and careers and which high schools we've been accepted to, and like kind of like it's not just like, all right, here's some X's and O's that we're learning, here's the I've always took pride that I tried to teach the students like about life and about the future and about how you'll be future citizens or
adulting,
future employees or future business owners or future bosses. I mean, I make a joke in class about half of you in here, look around the classroom, because many of you in here are someday going to be somebody's boss. And look around here, and some of you are going to be somebody's employees. You're going to be working for somebody in this class, and right now those connections and those life lessons, if you will, or whatever, are kind of fallen by the wayside because everyone's in survival mode and everyone's in,
Yeah, we're not getting to the high level life stuff. We're just
we're just survival.
Through.
Let's get through the day and get our assignment done. And I hope this, like I've got my Black History, project coming up in February that I'm all kind of excited about, because in past years it kind of had to get modified because of virtual learning. It wasn't something you could do as effectively through virtual learning. So, I'm kind of excited because we'll get to do kind of like step outside the norm to do like a research project. We have a draft where we draft important figures. I got like a draft board of like 55, Black history figures. And we have a draft, we pick numbers and we start the draft and we go through the draft. And then we do, once everybody's got their pick, we have we do a research project. So you write a paper and research the person, write a paper about them. And then you make a PowerPoint about them. And then you deliver the PowerPoint about them. And then the students all have like their peer review of the presentation, 2 things they did well, 2 things they can improve, and 2 things you learned about this. So then we end up having a whole class, like teach the rest of the class about these 25 or 35.
That's awesome.
So
amazing.
Instead of me sitting in front of the class being like, all right, we're learning about Malcolm X today.
Here's why you should
which
care
would be
about
cool.
Harriet Tubman.
Which would be cool.
Instead, it's Johnny or Susie doing their presentation, teaching the class about Malcolm X and the research that they found on Malcolm X and the things they found interesting about him and why the reasons he was important and et cetera, et cetera. And, it's become a pretty eclectic list of 55 or so, between 45 and 55, depending on how big my classes are. I want to make sure the last kid that in the draft, if you got the last pick in the draft, it's not like, oh, I've got these last 3 people. Norbert Ralou, no offense, Norbert Ralou. He's super interesting guy, but he's usually the last one on the board all the time. Just, he invented granulated sugar.
Poor Norbert. No love for Norbert.
But Norbert never, because there's really that's like there's like a paragraph.
Like if you got your choice between Kendrick Lamar and Norbert, you're going to take Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar's not on the list.
Well, maybe.
And that's the other thing. That's the other like funny thing that happens every year. Like the kids are like, "Can I write about Oprah or can I write about Michael Jordan?" I'm like, they're not on the list of draftable. Draftable. They're not on the draft list. And
maybe they should be.
Not when you're going up against like Fannie Lou Hamer and and also like Rosa Parks, and they always ask, how come Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. aren't on the list? And it's like, well, you're in 8th grade, you've had 7 years of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks lessons. This year we learned about 50 other people, and and I do a whole Martin Luther King thing. I have a PBS video that I kind of broken up into segments that we learn about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr. and et cetera, et cetera.
Do you have Bell Hooks on that list? I mean, she just died.
She is this year. Yeah, she is this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I removed Naomi Osaka to put Bell Hooks on the list, and but and then I have a whole other video that's all about Erie's history of being part of the Underground Railroad and a lot of like the various historical facts. What's the name of the place over on East Lake Road and Water Street? I'm drawing a blank on the name of the estate.
Oh yeah, I know the one you mean.
But right at the intersection of so I'll do a thing where I get the Google Maps out and we take a ride from Wilson. We leave Wilson's parking lot and we go down the street and then we go this way on Google Maps and I have it projected up on the projector. I'm like, yeah, you guys have been past this house and it's a house where slaves had tunnels and stuff like that and they'd ferry and usher slaves out to the lakefront to escape to Canada. And when I get to the spot, I stop and I turn and I show, there's the 150-year-old picture of the building in the video that we watch about Erie's history. And then I'll stop and click and turn on the Google Maps and they'll be like, oh my God, I drive by that every day. That's in my neighborhood. Oh man. Oh. And it kind of, you just kind of see like, my mind is totally blown, Mr. S. I didn't realize that. And, the past 2 years, I haven't been able to do that project. So I'm hoping that February because if it goes into March, we have to do our presentations and stuff like that. Sometimes those take a little longer and they bite into March. So if we're taking into halfway into March,
as a white person,
halfway into March,
as a white person, give you permission to take the first week of March from me.
To extend, well, yeah. And in
what
the last year,
what Heritage Month is March? What is?
I don't know.
Women, I believe.
Women's, okay.
I believe.
Oh, there's some intersectionality there. You can just move.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm hoping that will kind of not light a fire under me or the students, but it'll be like, all right, here's something out of the norm. Here's something where we get to be creative. Here's something where we get to, there'll be a lot of kids that are like, click, copy, paste Wikipedia into document, and hey, I'll work with that. Can you give a presentation on this Wikipedia article now, kids? Or let's see what you got. Make this into a nice PowerPoint so you don't lose too many points, and here's your rubric.
March is Women's History Month. Deaf History Month runs mid-month to mid-month for some reason. It's March 13th to April 15th. It's also National Craft Month, Optimism Month.
See, there you go. There we go. I knew I was intersectionality.
Honor Society Awareness Month. It is Irish American Heritage Month, as would make sense. Yes. National Foreign Language Month, National Ethics Month. I'm skimming at this point. National Kidney.
Are those official? Are you just making those up?
It's from this list I found on thespruce.com.
National Hot Dog Water Month.
When is the White Man Working Man Month?
It's every month of every year.
Except
February and March, when we need to rage against.
When are they going to get recognized?
Rage against how they're taking.
That's kind of another thing.
From us.
Usually I was American history, but like this year we had a whole curriculum change. That's another thing that's kind of been like, whoa, I'm learning a new platform. So now I've got a new platform to deliver virtual instruction, and now there's a whole new curriculum. Yeah. And I taught 22 years of American history from, exploration, colonization up through the Civil War. Now it's like, now I'm teaching Mesopotamia and Egypt. And it's like the gear shift was like, okay, I'll learn how to do this.
There's a lot more history out there than the history. There's more history than there used to be.
Not even that so much, but I've got 20 years of lessons. So,
I know.
I've got 7 different Battle of Trenton activities that I can do for the Battle of Trenton.
Right.
I don't have 7 Mesopotamia things ready.
About the Battle of Ur.
To be like, all right, this is to make it fun and interesting. I still haven't figured out the fun and interesting stuff. I'm still trying to learn the curriculum to deliver it properly. And then,
March is also Problem Gambling Awareness Month to coincide with March Madness, I guess, which seems cruel somehow.
With the Bills not covering the spread.
Yeah.
Which is a math lesson all to itself.
Yes. Are you teaching the spread this year?
No, I'm not the math teacher. There's a reason I'm not the math teacher. I think I was like my 3rd year of teaching. And they gave me like 1 unit of math. So I had to teach like 1 math class. I was a special ed teacher. So I had a learning support math class. And I was like, all right, how hard could this be? I'm teaching learning support students. It'll be like kind of basic math. And I was horrible.
You're like, I'm out forever.
I was like, oh my goodness, please save me and don't let me teach math anymore. And they did not. They were wise in that decision. So I only taught 1 semester. I think it was like 2 quarters and 1 class, a couple of semesters worth of math before I was like, history and science.
Well, we should have whoever the best of your presentations are on the show sometime this year, and they can teach us about Black history.
Make that part of the assignment.
Yeah,
that is keeping them up awfully late on a school night.
Well, we'll pre-record it.
Tomorrow's a non-instruction day, isn't it?
That is true. That is true.
But you could do that, like just time it around. Yeah. There's got to be some non-instruction days in February. You could just
we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it the Sunday before President's Day. Is President's Day a holiday for you guys?
I will give that a try, though I'm not confident that there'll be.
Or we'll pre-record it. But yes. We should have a Black History Month segment on the show featuring Mr. Skindell's class. I'm excited about this. Is Miles Davis on the list?
Miles Davis is not on the list.
Is John Coltrane on the list?
Hold on, let me see if I can't look it up here. Look up my list here. Right. If you guys want to talk here and give me a second to look up my list.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'll see if I can't pull it up right here.
Bell hooks was a great idea, Jay. Who else should be on the list? It's not too late. I mean, February hasn't started yet, so it's not too late to get
No,
our
I
suggestions
can
in.
make changes to my list all I want.
Well, I mean, he passed away a number of years ago, but put or just a few years ago, actually, Derek Bell, put him on there.
Derek Bell,
the father of critical race theory. Although you could argue that W.E. Du Bois was. So
yeah,
he is on the list.
Yeah, he absolutely should be on the list.
Let's see. Maybe I can't.
There is now for my doctoral research, I'm focusing on racist housing policy in Erie between 1899 and 2020s. So 120 plus years of housing policy in Erie. It's some really terrible stuff, people. It makes me like not think so different about the South. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's not that much different. But I come across a number of leaders from Erie's Black community that I think it would be really great to, again, maybe there's still some relatives, and I know, people move and they get out of town or they don't have children or whatever it is. So sometimes it's harder to, especially if it's been 100 years, it's hard to find living relatives who would remember them. But maybe there's relatives that have, clippings and sayings or just old,
I like
family stories
this.
or stuff.
You gotta. I like this idea. I'm excited about this idea. You should send me some names, Jay, when we get off the show here. Send me some names of some of these.
Well, and I think you start with like the establishments, right? Like the Pope Hotel, and you start with like the early iterations of the local NAACP. You start off with the there has been every time that Black Erieites have faced discrimination either by law, de jure, or by policy, de facto, there have been leaders in the community that have pushed for and advocated for change and stood up. And at the same time, it isn't just about that. There are, Black artists in Erie who've developed and created things. There's
for sure
just tremendous stories. Educators have said there's just tremendous amount there that has just not, for whatever, we know the reasons, but I think that, we often go to and it's important to teach because, we are a global world and all that stuff. It is important to teach about, and I'm about this with leaders in general. It's important to teach leaders who have changed thoughts and society and cultures and media and et cetera. But, when you start teaching people about their own community, I think that gives them not only a better understanding of their community, but I think it gives them a better sense of why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
And I think it gives a better sense of what can be done.
Well,
and also,
I think a lot of people don't have a lot of historical local perspective.
Yeah, and local history perspective, it tends to focus on a couple of big events here and there, right? They tend to be, and I think we're missing out on but you can go to the library. There are some tremendous stories. There's doctoral dissertations that, nobody reads doctoral dissertations.
Right.
They take a lot of work to
Unless
write.
they have to.
But there are doctoral dissertations that people have written about their childhood and things that they encountered in Erie and stuff. And I think there's just so much that we can learn from a people's history of Erie, that because we have to realize that things are the way they are because of certain rules and certain things and certain decisions, right? It's made this way.
Yeah.
And people also have to understand that it wasn't just people in DC. It wasn't just people in certain hotspots around the country. It's people in our own backyard that are creating new things, creating wonderful new art, creating new businesses, new inventions that are raising a faith community, raising a community of sports teams and all sorts of things. There's so much that we can learn from our own community, and it's also going to show us some things we'd probably rather not be proud of.
Oh, sure. Well, and a big part of the reason why Erie culturally is the way Erie is, like those are that has to do with Erie leadership, and that has to do with you know we're going to learn more about why Erie is the way Erie is by learning about Lou Tullio than we are by learning about Calvin Coolidge. To pick
and screw that guy.
yeah
But that's pretty sure you have, because like
to
that's
pick
the thing,
to
like,
pick a
again, like,
president that didn't really do much
well,
of anything.
going on my research on housing, like he had a huge impact. Him and
Oh, yeah.
Hoover and a number of others, they were on national. There's been this. I mean, just again, if you want to know why Erie is segregated the way it is, and the way houses are built the way they are, and things are where they're at, you can tie it mostly to the turn of the 20th century, early
Sure.
1900s. You could turn it to that, but also like every step of the way, like there's a connection to what's happening nationally and down locally on all these things, and
Yeah.
you can have a curriculum on the presidents and the policies they pushed and how our community is shaped and built. Like you could a direct connection to those things, to those initiatives. And it wasn't what Coolidge did in office. It was after he was out of office, by the way, with the Better Homes initiative that was pre redlining, that was probably as detrimental as that policy itself. But
I picked a good useless name, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You could pick them all out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and part of this, I am writing. It's going to take me a 2 to 3 years. I am writing a book on the history of housing, racism and housing in Erie. I have probably when I get towards the back end of it, I'm going to be interviewing people who've lived through it or their relatives. And so I'm really excited about that aspect, to not just have numbers and policies and stats and all this other stuff, but have
the
real,
firsthand
how did it impact
stuff.
people's lives?
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that part. And so and I'm hoping that, and I don't know what the mechanism for this is, because I haven't dived too deep into how much wiggle room we have on curriculum at the school board level, because I know we have a lot of direction from the state and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I really think we need to provide young people with an education that allows them to explore these local policies and local histories around this, so they understand why, when they go out their door, why does the street look the way it is? Why do the buses run where they run? Why are the schools how they are? All those, and because I think if
why is this neighborhood this way, and why is that neighborhood that way?
And like, I love the fact that Garrett is letting students sort of pick what excites them and interests them, because that takes your own bias out to an extent. But
yeah, I found my list, by the way.
We need to give students, young people need to exercise that muscle. They need to, because they're the ones that are going to be leading the change. And especially in your teen years, you can lead change. You can. And we need to trust them, and we need to support them, and we need to support them, say, hey, here's all these things that you can look into. Here's all these things that we can support you in this journey. And because I think we need to be preparing the next generation, because we're living through a societal change and a societal collapse if we're not careful. And I think the only way out of it is because we're too old, folks.
Yeah.
We're too, sorry to say,
you're the youngest. You're the youngest of the three of us.
I'm telling you, this next generation, and they're all looking at us like we're screwing them all over.
Yep.
We're failing them all.
There we are.
Right? They're watching all of us.
And we have a generation of kids, instead of growing up looking at the greatest generation or what have you, they're like, I don't see a great future.
Like, okay, boomer.
In my climate. Riddled.
That's what gets me, is like when I teach on things, is like none of my college students have any pre 9/11 experience.
There's not a lot of optimism so
they've lived through disaster their entire life.
All right, I found my list. I got my list. You ready for my list?
What do you got?
Yes, let's hear it.
All right, I have it broken down into categories. So I have like athletes and medicine and military and government, civil rights, and adventurers and explorers, music, art, authors and poets, education, abolitionists, and inventors. Those are the categories.
Okay, I like it.
So under inventors and scientists, we got Granville T. Woods, Jan Matzlinger, Benjamin Banneker, Lewis Latimer, George Washington Carver, of course.
Of course.
The obligatory George Washington Carver.
Right.
Abolitionists, we have Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, John Brown. Education, Mary McLeod Bethune, Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. The authors and poets are Langston Hughes, Paul Laurence Dunbar, James Baldwin, Amanda Gorman, and Maya Angelou. Baldwin's always the one that I hope they're going to pick. I kind of like do a little preview, and I'm like,
there's a lot to work with,
and it's always like I'll especially like be in my honors class, like, hey kid, if you're looking for someone really cool to do here, Baldwin's your guy,
yeah,
and you got a low draft pick, so I'm sure he'll be around when you draft if you're really looking, But and then music, I kind of stuck with like the old school, like kind of like barrier breakers, like Marian Anderson and W.C. Handy and Duke Ellington. I kept that category, purposefully small. Adventurers and explorers, we got James Beckwith, we got Matthew Henson, Bessie Coleman, and Mae Jemison. So we got astronauts, pilots, explorers, and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we get to civil rights, and civil rights is Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Fannie Lou Hamer, James Meredith, Emmett Till, Ruby Bridges. And I try to give a wide berth. And then we get to the government. Got people like Shirley Chisholm and Thurgood Marshall, Edward William Brooke, Robert Weaver, Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. And then we're working into, we got like 3 categories left. I'll be quick. In the military.
I'm happy.
Oh, all right. We can go back through the categories. In the military, we've got Benjamin O. Davis Jr., Robert Smalls. I'm sorry, Colin Powell's in the military, not the U.S. government. But Colin Powell, Lloyd Austin, and the Tuskegee Airmen.
I served with him. Yeah, I served under him. Lloyd Austin. He is like 20 feet tall, by the way.
Imposing figure.
So he was my division commander on my first tour to Iraq, and he came and visited my platoon. And I'd seen him before from far away because the division is a rather big, organization. Yeah. But he came to my platoon once when I was in just outside of Baghdad, and my gosh, the guy is like, he's 20 feet tall. I swear it.
Yeah. He's taking on big tasks. He's taking on big tasks currently. Then we get into medicine, and we have Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, Dr. Charles Drew, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, Dr. Dorothy Lavinia Brown, Dr. Matilda Evans. So I tried to have a wide berth of like groundbreaking medical pioneers and such.
You got some deep cuts on this list.
I'm trying, man. Well, that's why I got to add. Oh my God, my brain just froze. Hooks.
You said bell hooks, yeah.
Bell hooks. That would be under authors, though, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Is that? Yeah, hold on. I'll add that right now. Boom, added. And then the last category. Go ahead.
I'll go keep talking.
The last category is athletes, and we got Jesse Owens, and there's a lot of the expecteds. Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Althea Gibson, Tommy Smith, Serena Williams, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Jesse Owens.
Lou Alcindor. Yeah, Jesse Owens is on the list.
Oh, okay.
So that's my draft list. You know, and then,
that's a tremendous list.
That's good.
I would
that's
say on bell hooks, like one of the things that I love about. I mean, so Kimberly Crenshaw, as she coined the term intersectionality, and bell hooks talked a great deal about it. And bell hooks is known for a great deal, many things, including classroom pedagogy and a number of other things, right?
Yes.
But one of the things that I loved about like that, I think, was just her choice of words in any general sense in any of her works. But the main one that always struck me was the instead of just talking about discrimination generally or whatever, she would specifically name it white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And I just found like that's like she's very precise with words.
She put a label on it, an appropriate, accurate label, and referred to it as such. Yeah. And so like I said, they come in, we get their draft, and like I said, I think my biggest class is 27. I think
27. Wow.
I think 26, and so
Hey,
whoever
that's
picks
too big. That's too
whoever
big. I don't know how you
whoever
do
picks
it.
last is still
You still got
has
half the draft
25.
class.
They still have 25 different people, so it's not like they're stuck with. Oh, I never heard of this guy. That is kind of the idea, though, to do the research on someone you never heard of. The early picks, everybody picks, Muhammad Ali and Harriet Tubman, and that's why Rosa Parks isn't on the list, because they've had 7 years of Rosa Parks and they've had 7 years of Martin Luther King Jr. and I do other things with them throughout the course of the month while they're writing their reports and doing their PowerPoints and finding images to use and videos and speeches and stuff and learning how to cite things properly. Well, I have kind of a bastardized citation system. It's like it's not like any.
I teach college. I see what kids are coming with.
Yeah, it's not like it's a very extreme bastardized, like.
I tell a lot of my students, I'm like, listen, just make it consistent, okay?
Yeah.
Just whatever format you're using or inventing, just consistent.
Make it easy so that I can be like, oh, all right, this paragraph is has this part right here. There's the quotation marks around what you copied and pasted, a little number in parentheses, and at the end, tell me what it is. Number 1 is this. Number 2 is from this website. Number 3 is from this website.
They're all from Wikipedia.
Pretty,
I love Wikipedia. I got no beef with Wikipedia.
There's a whole lot of kids that put a whole lot of effort into doing a really good job and doing it right. And then of course there's a lot of students who are like, all right, copy and paste and I'm done. And I'm like, dude, there's a whole bunch of, see the bracket there where the number is? That tells me you just copied and pasted. You didn't even get rid of that part.
Like you kept where it said citation needed.
Yeah, come on, man. You didn't even change the font, the Wikipedia font.
Or the background of the text is different colors.
Come on. Just try
You're not even trying.
Put a little bit into it.
Try.
But for the most part, there's a whole lot of kids that do a whole lot of, research, and they, I like to think they have a fun time. And then like I said, the last thing is like you have to give a presentation. And most kids are like, oh no, I don't want to get up in front of the class, and I'm so embarrassed. And most of the time, once like the first 2 or 3 kids get up and do it, it's like, oh, all right, this isn't that big of a deal. And they're all worried, like, because everybody at their seat has their little review sheet. So like, let's say, Johnny Brenneman gets up there and does his presentation, and the kids kind of have to pay attention because they have to fill out, their evaluation. They're like their own, like, so when the kid gets it back, he doesn't just get like my grade and my comments on their report. They get back a whole stack of like the other 20 kids in class and 2 things that they thought they did well. Hey, I thought, there's a lot of kids are like, oh man, that sucked. And then they read through their feedback from their classmates and they're like, oh, I guess everybody liked that, that picture I used Booker T. Washington,
There's one thing I noticed too is just, and things are changing, and we're adapting to what works to engage students around content, and some of it may be thinking about ableism as well. But one thing I found interesting is that when you give students a chance to record their presentation, because PowerPoint lets you do this now, where you can auto progress and all that stuff.
Deal.
And I found that some students that are just supernaturally quiet, all this other stuff, they put a ton of work into it still. But I've seen some really interesting presentations from students that they've recorded it. And it's funny because they're sitting right there.
Yeah.
Right. But I know that they wouldn't have presented if they did, it would have been very, they would have been really nervous, or it would have been just a short. They would have missed a lot of their content.
This is my report about
they do it when they're comfortable because they're at home.
Important person, and he did lots of great things. And
it might be something to consider if you're able to. I would.
Yeah,
I would
I'm gonna
recommend
look into that with my This is my technology.
Yeah.
Paul DeCenzo, our computer instructor at the school, and see how I can go about doing that in a way that'll be easy for them to record, and then they can email it to me, and then I can, they can give
That's
me
always the
the
hardest
option.
part. You have to be
Yeah.
very specific about what platform or technology they
Yeah,
can use or how to get it to
Yeah.
it.
So
But
yeah,
I'm telling you, I've used it at both the undergrad and the grad level, and and even with some students that were dual enroll high school, and I'm telling you, I wasn't sure at first, but you only get a
Yeah,
handful
plus-
that do it. But
and
it's
they're
great.
used to making like TikToks of them, of themselves doing all kinds of crazy things. So
Yeah.
or videos of themselves snapping, the
I
chatting,
want to see
their Google machines. And
I want to see the Black History Month TikToks that they're making. I think that should be part of the curriculum for next year. Is
I should
need to make a
TikTok.
Black History Month TikTok about whoever you need whoever your draft pick is.
That might be an addition in the future. I don't think I'm going to do that this year, though.
No, I said next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like I
this
said,
year.
like right now, I'm just trying to
will be a
figure out,
thing.
like, all right, email me your paper, and email me your PowerPoint, and then you can give your presentation. Then I'll just, I go to the email and call up their email and put their PowerPoint up on my projector, and then I move to the back of the class. They come up front and do their thing, hopefully. Or it's all like, this isn't working, Mr. Scannell. I'm like, all right, well then you can go tomorrow. Who's next? That's all right. We'll figure it out, and you can go tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
I'm now. I feel like I've got homework now. We got to figure out what we're gonna do for Black History Month for the show. We'll make our supplementary. We'll make our supplementary list. We'll have the social distancing variety hour NIT version of the list.
Yeah.
It'll have
video.
It'll have like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Coltrane.
Yeah, well, I have the video Safe Harbor that was done by like the Historical Society and stuff like that. But I don't want to be like it's so old, but it is like a 10, maybe 12-year-old, video or DVD that I show that's all about Erie's local, the Underground Railroad, the role of Erie, and how they had, they were helping. Samuel Vincent Hammett's slaves. They were stealing his slaves, and helping them escape and such. And it's a really well done piece. I just have to. I don't know how we would track down the people who, not necessarily the people that made it, but whoever's at the Historical Society now.
Well, we have our ways.
Yeah,
to make
we'll see if we
things
can.
happen.
We'll see if we can effort that for February at some point in time.
Oh, that would be cool.
So yeah, plus there's the whole Walking in Black History. I'm sure I just have to get in touch with some of the folks from the Walking in Black History program that they have, because that's always a great program too. So
This has been a great episode.
This has. This has.
I feel it's less. I don't know. It's interesting. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Well, we're
conversation.
here to be interesting and good. It's
we're sharing and such.
we are. We're sharing. We're caring.
Yeah.
Anybody with any parting words? Any final remarks?
Stay safe, get vaxxed, wear your mask.
Yeah. And
Don't hire people that aren't qualified for positions that are just trolls.
you may
Don't hire
and
internet
you
trolls
may
to plan the county.
you may, despite your best efforts of having been fully vaccinated and all that, you may still get COVID. And,
That's right.
And it will suck.
But
It's
you will-
no fault to you on that.
And
Yeah.
it will
you
suck, but
survive and
it
live
will
through it.
suck less. I had pneumonia in 2015. I think it was 2015, 15 or 16, 15. And that was far worse than the bout of COVID that I am just thankfully on the far side of now.
Yeah, not to minimize that or anything like that, but I mean it is.
But I was fairly freshly boosted when I got sick.
Mhm.
I was like 2 weeks post booster,
Yeah.
and I feel like that definitely made a ton of difference as far as how I was affected by it, how badly it took me down, how long it had me down for. So I was very
Yeah.
thankful for having been
Same
fully
for my
vaccinated.
kids. My
and
youngest,
boosted.
we had just gotten him his like the month before.
Yeah.
You know, so we were all like, "Oh, thank goodness we have." You know, everybody in the fam is now fully vaxxed, whatever possibility they can be.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
So,
Our youngest is too little, right?
Yeah.
We got 2 school age kids.
Mhm.
They've been great. Their classrooms, I think only one of them had their classroom shut down for like a week.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. They gone this far this year, and
Yeah.
my daughter's class, nothing, right? My son's class just like a week maybe.
Yeah.
But I upgraded their masks, and one of the things I am concerned with is make sure that we're providing the highest quality mask for all of our teachers and visitors
Oh,
and
yeah.
students and all that, and that's part of again, some things
We go through a lot.
Mascots I can do right now. The COVID protocols. That's pretty lengthy. That's taking me a
we
little
go
time.
through a lot of them. It's ironic you brought that up, Jay, because we go through a lot of them, and they're like the regular paper ones, and you have a kid put them on, and all of a sudden the ear, the thing broke, and now they need, so there's days I go through tons, or I'll just be standing at the door as they're coming in, like, put a mask on. And after a while, we sound like somebody's naggy grandma, being like, "Put your mask on." But you got to do it. You got to protocols and stuff.
And that we tested a couple months ago. We tested our daughter, who's 7. We tested her at home, and that was a weird experience doing that. But even now with like the free test you can get, which you can get, by the way, there's a number of websites. Just Google it. If
yes,
you
do that.
Test. But the thing is, it's like they only give you up to 4, and I'm a household of 5.
Yeah, we are too.
What the hell, right?
Yeah,
right.
And it's always like, do I got to go barter with somebody as a household of 1 and be like, hey, can you order 4 so I could get
dude.
But that just has me.
Jay, hey, we got the good tests over here, man.
Yeah, right. And like, how many of them are like? What's the quality of them?
First one's free, but after that, I got to charge you for the next 4 because I know you got 5 in your household. But
Yeah.
Well,
all that stuff. And
thankfully, my mom and dad were able to locate some, and they got themselves a stash, and they got us a stash of them too. But we also, during the time that we were sick, we also had some friends who were getting sick, and we were like, well, we are flush with tests right now, so come score some tests off our porch. So we've tried to share the wealth.
Friends that were concerned.
Yeah, I did the same, and. But now we're back to being almost out of tests again. But
I'm waiting on that shipment from the government.
Yeah, we did order our free government tests.
I did. I got my 4
things
right
they
away.
Could have been doing this whole time. That and masks.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you,
I really am like having an N95 mask would give a whole lot of teachers in the district a whole lot of
we need
peace
to,
of mind,
my
or a
hope
little
is
more
that,
peace of mind.
Yeah, my goal is that we do, right?
Yeah.
I had New Year's, ruined my New Year's. I ended up taking a Uber ride at 4 a.m. to Cleveland to get a flight to Puerto Rico. A family member had an emergency that I had to go down to, and they're doing better, thankfully. But I had to travel to, first time getting on a plane during the pandemic. Thankfully, my N95, KN94, which I love, by the way. Masks had come in time, but the airports, I only saw like one guy walking around. He must have thought he was proving a point. He had this, like, you could tell he must have had like a giant truck that's all jacked up and stuff too. Walking around the hall. But when you get into, it was funny because it's not funny. Well, Puerto Rico, that like their cases had increased like 99,000% or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And they had required for all travelers to have a negative test to come with a negative test that it was recent, past 2 days or whatever, or to get one within 2 days after getting there. And because I looked around, I was looking in Buffalo, Erie, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I was like, I'll go anywhere, get a test, get the next flight out of that airport, go. Nobody had tests. And I was like, well, I'm just going to fly to Puerto Rico and just have them put me in jail or something. I don't know. So I flew down there, and they were like, you have 2 days to get one while you're here. I was like, okay, great. And
where do I go?
But there was none. There was no tests available whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the thing was that most of the places I went required you to show your vaccination card.
Yeah.
Most places I went, even outside, people would remind you to wear a mask. People were expected to wear a mask everywhere you were. And a lot of places were closed down. And I never, it struck me because like even the hospital was hard to
Yeah.
get through and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But food was really, really hard. But there were still people there on vacation. But I had to get food. And I remember there's this place next to the hotel. I went to get some food. And, I know it's a pandemic, right? And so I'm waiting. Like they're like, it's going to be like you had to get I got reservations, and they're like, and the doors are all open and stuff, but they're like, it's going to be like an hour and a half for your food. I was like, I ain't going to get food anywhere else. If I'll wait, I understand that like we're shorthanded because some people got sick, and I'm like, yeah, I understand. We're in the middle of a global crisis right now.
Yep.
But then hearing a couple tourists behind me that were just like complaining the whole time. And I'm just like,
fuck you. Yeah.
go walk out the door and find some food. You're not even gonna find hot dogs.
He's J Zero Fucks now. He's not Jay Brenneman anymore. He's J Zero Fucks.
It's like, do you not know? Do you not read the news?
Yeah.
Do you not read the news? Like,
well, we need to make the masks like more.
You're being jerks to people.
Yeah, if we could get the N95 masks that were more tactical, you know what I mean? Like the free ones they give away, like more like,
Oh right, yeah.
Like these are the ones that they wear.
Like these ones have
cargo from Iraq.
These ones have cargo pockets.
Yeah. Carhartt should manufacture them.
They should.
Yeah. Jay, it was great having you on the show. Thanks for
Erie working man masks.
I appreciate the impromptu invite. I appreciate it. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah, most definitely. Glad to have you join us. Mr. Skindell, good to see you, my friend.
Always good to see you.
Much love and respect to the Buffalo Bills. That was
it was an amazing game. I don't think it could have been a more stress. They did everything they could to win the game except win it.
Yeah. It was
that's as weird as that sounds.
It was a fabulous game, and I'm glad to have seen it. Wish it could have ended differently, but
they battled back and took the lead, and then 30 seconds later the Chiefs took the lead, and then they took the lead back, and then they lost the lead, then they tied it up, then they took the lead, then they lost the lead, then they tied it up, then they went to overtime, and then in overtime shit all went to hell, and then it was
yeah. I turned my back for 30 seconds. I'm like, I'm gonna go downstairs and set the show up so I can push the button and be like,
shit, they scored.
And be like, we'll be back.
Points.
We'll be back as soon as the game is over. And then I walked upstairs to see the game over.
And it was like, but okay, it is what it is, man.
Stunning turns of events throughout, and it makes me happy to see the Buffalo Bills back to doing well. I got, even beyond yourself, I got tons of friends and family who are Bills fans, and like they
had a long 17 years of futility,
sad number of years, and
so it's nice to be decent and not suck.
No, it's exciting.
It's nice to suck less this year than we have for years past.
It's exciting. It makes me happy.
But yeah, man, we're the future, baby. We're the future.
Yep. Well, guys, thank you again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
Gentlemen.
Thank you all out there for watching, whoever's out there watching. And we will be back with you again soon. Joe Kodba, feel better. Hope to get you back soon. And take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Go wash your hands.